28 days until the election, and Biden has maintained a convincing lead in the national polls, if they're to be believed. The story in the battleground states, however, has been one of twists and turns and flips and flops, showing each campaign is running a very direct strategy. A new poll from Gallup, however, indicates that there may be many Democratic voters who Trump's message appeals to, and they could still win the election for him. We'll be discussing that and more in today's episode. This is Political Election 2020. I'm Ian Smith, and I'm joined by Connor Allen.
Good evening, everyone.
But before we get into that, please consider subbing if you haven't already. Give the like button a click if you enjoy our content, and comment down below. We've had some really good discussions down there recently from opposing and agreeing commenters, and we'd love to have some more. So, but honestly, the best thing you can do to help the channel is to share this video on your social media. It helps get the message out, spreads our content to a wider audience. So please do consider that if you want to help us out. So let's jump into it. New poll from Gallup.
Let's jump in.
Economy tops voters list of key election issues.
I've never seen this one before.
No, this is new. It's a new poll, but it's a message we've heard before, yeah. So as the nation remains in a pandemic-induced recession, US registered voters say the economy is the most important issue of 16 that may potentially affect their choice of president. Nearly 9 in 10 registered voters consider the presidential candidate's position on the economy extremely or very important to their vote. At least 3/4 of voters consider 6 other issues to be important to their vote choice: terrorism and national security, education, healthcare, crime, the response to coronavirus, and race relations. So, the economy tops the bill.
Absolutely. And really, this can only favour Donald Trump, can't it? Because, the vote, when he always bangs on that he built the greatest economy in history, and he's going to do it again, right? But It is kind of true. The record unemployment levels, record low unemployment levels. And I think American people just have a really great appreciation of what that means for their lives, don't they?
Yeah, it's not just in terms of appreciation. Like, there's very real impacts it has. Like, Trump obviously boasted and gloated about the stock market being the highest it's ever been. And the left-wing response to that has often been, oh, that's just, the big cats on Wall Street making money. Actually, no. Like 50% of people have, or more than 50% of people have a vested interest in stocks in some level, and it will impact their lives and affect their job, whether it's through their pension or it's savings or whatever it is. A lot of these things, 401ks, are invested in stocks, and it has a big impact on their livelihood. And of course, a lot of people work for these companies that are on the market, so it has a big impact. And it's not just that, it's the low unemployment rate, as you said. So this is a record. It's a great record for him in his first 4 years, and it's a proven record. And I think comparing it to Biden's record in the 47 years, and more particularly when he was vice president, I think Trump certainly is more appealing, and people will trust him more on the economy. We know that anyway. We've seen that in polls already, pretty much all consistently showing people favor Trump on the economy.
And throughout history as well, because we have to remember there is no way that Trump would have won the election if Biden and Obama hadn't destroyed the Rust Belt economies and absolutely abandoned those people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when we heard this before, and it obviously is a platitude really, but when we're talking about a president seeking re-election for their second term, they say it's more of a mandate on them than it is on the opposing candidate, the candidate who wants to be president, obviously Biden in this case. And I think those people in the Rust Belt state probably were pretty happy with the job he was doing before coronavirus. So really the question is, the thing that we're trying to gauge is, are there still enough people that are concerned about the economy? Do they trust Trump on the economy? And it seems the answer to both of those questions is yes, because the top two issues are the economy and then Trump's other big strength, really. I mean, these are pretty much his two biggest strengths, terrorism and national security. So
yeah, absolutely. And he's done so well with national security issues, hasn't he? I mean, in terms of extracting America from these kind of unwinnable wars in the Middle East, in terms of ISIS, what a threat they were, and Donald Trump, obviously under Donald Trump's reign, completely ended that threat. And ISIS were really exporting terrorists throughout the world. We saw horrible attacks around the mid 2010s. We haven't seen a terrorist attack for quite a long time now, which has been easing, to say the least.
Sure, and I forget his name. Is it al-Baghdadi? Is that his name? The Iranian. Yeah.
No. That's al-Baghdadi was the ISIS leader.
Oh, right, yeah.
Al-Soleimani was the...
Yeah, that's the one, sorry. Yeah. So, a big terrorist leader, and, a huge target. And, that's part of Trump's legacy now, that ISIS and he were eliminated. So, he's got a great record on... Sorry?
I was just saying decisive action.
Yeah, exactly. Decisive. So these are the two bipartisan issues, shall we say, because both sides, Democrats and Republicans, are supporting this. They have a concern for these issues. So the things that Biden's real strength, or his perceived strengths anyway, are obviously healthcare, which is a massive issue for left-wing voters right now. That's probably the single biggest issue beyond, obviously, like in terms of the long term that they're concerned about. And pretty much Bernie Sanders' main platform was this idea of healthcare for all, which obviously Biden doesn't support. But it's still perceived to be his strength because of his plan. It's like his main mandate is healthcare. And obviously the response to the coronavirus, again, there's not much bipartisan concern for that. I think on the left you have people that are still obviously extremely concerned about it, but on the right, Republican voters aren't really going to be swayed by the case that Biden makes, because I think the sentiment there is that actually we just kind of need to think about living with coronavirus, as we've said it before, living with coronavirus instead of like hiding away from it. So
absolutely. And there really is a difference between the economy and national security as issues to coronavirus and healthcare, as you said. The first two are bipartisan issues, whereas if you are concerned about the response to the coronavirus, you could be concerned that you'll be placed in lockdown. You could be concerned that an overzealous response will tank the economy, okay? Or if you are concerned about healthcare, could be concerned that someone like Bernie Sanders will force healthcare for all on America, hike taxes up massively, and have catastrophic effects, reduce the quality of healthcare. So, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, and there's a lot of people concerned that they're happy with their health plan that they've got, and they're going to be forced off of it. Obviously, and that's like a huge concern for a lot of people. So, but I guess the question really is when people are answering these questions, when you say, and if they're saying I'm concerned about or it's extremely important to me, the response to the coronavirus, that can be a lot of people, as you say, thinking, well, I'm concerned the response is going to be too harsh. And obviously with healthcare, I'm concerned that the healthcare is going to change for the worse in terms of the deal that I've got and the healthcare plan that I've got. But I think ultimately, though, the economy and terrorism is still something that has that bipartisan support, stretches across basically catches all of those independents and obviously a lot of Democrats as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, when you just look at these things, it really is clear that Trump has something of a platform to build on, doesn't he? Okay, he's behind in the polls right now, but if he gets a bit of momentum, he gets a bit of a push, people are going to find it very easy to come over to his platform because they care about the economy and the security. Whereas it's a bit more difficult for someone to go over to Biden and then stick to Biden. Simply, this is what the poll is telling you.
And I think as well, something interesting is crime is actually fifth if you take it from extremely important and very important, which again, obviously, is another huge strength of Trump. I don't think anyone realistically is voting for Biden because they think he's going to be really come down hard on all the violence and rioting that's been going on, and spikes in crime in obviously mostly Democrat cities and Democrat-run places. Obviously, been some Republican ones as well, but mostly Democrats.
Absolutely. And you could just see that disparity in race relations and crime. So when you do combine the extremely important and important categories, crime does come out ahead of race relations. What that's reflecting is a lot of people who perhaps do back Black Lives Matter or do back the message, but they've been so put off by these leftist thugs that are looting and burning cities that they are now firmly looking towards a law and order president.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that the polls have actually indicated that people, the support for Black Lives Matter has fallen. But support for reforming the police is high and has been high, and that is a bipartisan issue. Reforming the police, defunding the police, not so much, but reforming the police, yes. So I think people are generally for getting and weeding out racism wherever it exists. But the radical left plan to deal with supposed systemic racism is obviously incredibly off-putting to a lot of people, I think it's fair to say. And the final point, the interesting thing here is how relations with China now are massively more important than relations with Russia. It feels like the whole Russia narrative has been kind of swept under the rug a little bit, doesn't it, in the past 6 months?
Certainly, and the Russians have been keeping somewhat of a lower profile in this election, shall we say, as opposed to the last election. But really, with so much emphasis, and everyone knows that China is largely responsible for the coronavirus too. People have seen China take advantage of the global instability to annex Hong Kong. People are really seeing just what a huge threat China is. And Donald Trump has really, I think, exposed the huge threat that China was, as perhaps not really in the public's forefront.
This is not that a pandemic can ever come at a good time, but I mean in the sense that for Trump, the Hong Kong and the Chinese response to coronavirus initially have, like say, they've highlighted the things that he has been parroting on about for years at this point, decades really, that China can't be trusted, and that the rest of the world is being naive really if they think that if they continue on the road that they're going, that China isn't going to be an even bigger issue further down the line, because like we discussed before, they're a totalitarian state, dictatorship, one-party state, communist state. They will attempt to spread their values, regime, politics across the world, and that will impact us, whether we want to admit it or not. That will impact us and our livelihood and our way of life, and the way of life that we believe is the better way of living, the more free way of living. So it is huge, and people are waking up to the severity of the issue now, as shown in this poll, because I guarantee you 4 years ago Russia would have come ahead of China on this. But yeah, I mean, let's have a look how it actually breaks down in terms of the Republicans and the Democrats. You can see, obviously, Democrats 95% have extremely or very important when it comes to healthcare. Only 63% to Republicans. So what it indicates is that there isn't much potential, as we said in the beginning of the video, for Biden to attract Republican voters when compared to Trump being able to attract Democrats, because there is more of a bipartisan consensus when it comes to the things that he's strong on.
Absolutely. You just see it there right there in the bar charts. The economy, for example, as you say, there is no big 30-point gulf they're more or less similar in terms of what people care about. So Donald Trump can attract those 85% of Democrats who do care about the economy. And as we said before, it really is a great platform for the president to build on, because if you're a floating voter and you've answered in the polls so far that you support Joe Biden, you're going to find it very easy to come over to Donald Trump. You're liking the things he's saying. You are more likely to like Donald Trump. That's what this poll is saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just a few other interesting things. There's obviously, if you look at all of the absolute perceived strengths of Biden, like climate change, just Republicans aren't really concerned right now at all. They're not going to be bought or swayed by arguments on climate change or what Biden's going to do with like his Green New Deal or whatever and all this kind of stuff.
The one he doesn't support, right?
Yeah, the one that he doesn't support, which no one really knows. But interesting as well, like taxes, right? And obviously it comes down to the way that they perceive the question, because it could be, I'm concerned about taxes because I think they're going to be lowered, or I'm concerned about taxes because I think they're going to be higher, right? But obviously for Republicans, taxes are an issue. I think for them, that is mostly them saying, I'm really concerned about the Democrats coming in and raising taxes. Whereas on the Democratic side, doesn't seem to be a key issue for them when it comes to this perception, obviously, that if Trump gets in for a second term, will he continue to deregulate? Will he continue to lower taxes for businesses? They don't seem to be as concerned about that as you might anticipate. So I think really the bottom line is, and as we've already said 2 or 3 times now at this point, is that there is much leeway there. There is much room for Trump to appeal to a lot of these Democrats, because the issues that they're concerned about are still things that he has a proven record on, that he is strong on. But when it comes to the other way around, a lot of these Republican-leaning independents, and obviously very swayed by the Democratic arguments and the arguments that Joe Biden's been making, which is healthcare and coronavirus, basically, is all he's been talking about at this point.
And I think Biden's ambiguity in all of this is playing a part, because when we all know Biden hates scrutiny, and we've all seen him dodge questions during the debates. So really, when you're a Republican voter and you're considering voting for Joe Biden, you don't have any policies to work with. It's very hard to find what Joe Biden thinks of things. So you automatically assume he has, the typical Democrat position. Typical Democrat position being defined by people like Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Ilhan Omar. Very unpopular for Republican voters. And like I said, that just feeds into what you just said there, Ian. Lots of room for Trump to go. Not a lot of room for Biden to grow.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how it goes. Obviously, Trump has, as we're recording this video, is about to be discharged from hospital and return to the White House, and probably, hopefully, if he continues to recover, will be campaigning as normal within the week, and hopefully will be at the next debate. And I think from that point there on, we're going to see, really, as we really just come into now the absolute final stretch of the election, whether or not Trump can convince these people to come and turn up and vote for him on election day. And as always, any polls that do come out that indicate a change, we will be covering it. So please do subscribe to check that out. And thank you once again for watching.